You look beautiful tonight. Let me begin by thanking Brother Ali for performing. Let me thank New Power Generation. Unbelievable. They were great, and they allow us to never forget one of the great musicians of our lifetimes, your very own Prince. Prince is missed, but he will never be forgotten. And let me thank my colleague in struggle, Senator Nina Turner. Senator Turner has been all over this country, rallying working people in the fight for justice, and I thank her so much for all that she has done. And let me thank my former congressional colleague, Keith Ellison, your Attorney General. Keith and I have walked on more than a few picket lines together. And he is doing an outstanding job as your Attorney General. Keith, thank you so much. And last but not least, let me thank an extraordinary woman who 30 years ago was in a refugee camp in Kenya, born in Somalia, and is now one of the leading voices for justice in the United States Congress. Thank you, Ilhan Omar. Minnesota is always a very special place for me, and that's not just because it gets cold like Vermont. Minnesota, as all of you know, was the home of a very close friend of mine, Senator Paul Wellstone. Paul was the only member of the Progressive Caucus, which I helped co-found back in 1991. And today, I remain the only U.S. Senator in that caucus, and thanks to leaders like Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and so many others, the Progressive Caucus today has become a major force in Congress in fighting for justice. So together, we are going to honor the memories of Paul and Sheila Wellstone, because we are going to win in Minnesota. And we are going to implement that progressive agenda that Paul spent his life fighting for. Now, it gives me no pleasure to tell all of you what you already know, that today, tragically, we have a president of the United States who is a pathological liar, who is running the most corrupt administration in history, who has obstructed justice, who has used his office for personal gain, who has threatened to withhold national security funds from an ally in order to improve his political chances. This is a president who deserves to be impeached and will be impeached. This is, in addition to all of that, a president who is a racist, who is a sexist, who is a xenophobe, a homophobe, and a religious bigot. This is a president who is trying to divide us up based on the color of our skin, where we were born, our sexual orientation, or our religion. So let me tell you why we are going to defeat Trump in Minnesota and across this country. And that is because we are going to do exactly the opposite of what Trump is doing. He is trying to divide us up. We're going to bring our people together. Black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, native born and immigrant. We are going to bring our people together around an agenda that works for all of us, not just the 1%. This is an unprecedented campaign, building an unprecedented grassroots movement, and that is why we're going to defeat Trump. We are going to win, and we are going to transform this country because of the movement we are building. Our movement has people of every race, every gender identity, every religion, every ethnicity, and working class people from all walks of life. That is our movement. We will not allow ourselves to be divided up because, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us, we share a common humanity, and we are strongest. And we are strongest when we come together. You know, people look at me and they say, Bernie, you are a Jewish guy whose father came to this country from Poland at the age of 17 without a nickel in his pocket. And let me say this. Growing up in a family that struggled economically powerfully influenced my life and my values. I know who I am and where I came from. And then people look at Ilhan, a Muslim woman from Somalia who spent years in a refugee camp in Kenya. And let me tell you, what Ilhan will tell you is her background heavily influenced the values that she takes to Congress. Ilhan Omar knows where she came from. People say that Ilhan and I make an odd political couple. But in fact, there is really nothing odd about it at all. Ilhan and I share a common link as the descendants of families who fled violence and poverty and who came to this country as immigrants. But that is not just my story or Ilhan's story. That is the story of America. Throughout our history, all people other than our Native American brothers and sisters have come to America from someplace else throughout the world. My wife's family came from Ireland. Nina Turner's family and Keith Ellison's family came from Africa. And whether our families came to America by choice, voluntarily, by necessity, or in chains, every one of our families has contributed to building this great nation. It is the fundamental underpinning of our democracy captured in the motto, E pluribus unum, from the many, one. . And despite our different backgrounds, our different experiences, all of us in this movement are fighting to make life better for every single person in this country, not just the people who look like us. When I think about the policy work that I have done with Ilhan, it is not some narrow agenda targeted at people who come from one place or another, or work that just benefits one group of people. It is an agenda that uplifts all of us. Just a few examples. Ilhan in the U.S. House and I in the Senate have introduced legislation to make all public colleges and universities tuition-free. And to eliminate all student debt in America. Ilhan and I are working together to make sure that all children in America have nutritious food and that we eliminate hunger in America. That's not just black children or white children or Latino children. That is all children in America. And Ilhan and I are working together to implement a Green New Deal that will not just benefit you, but your kids, your grandchildren, and future generations. And I see some young people here from the Sunrise Movement. Thank you, guys. The agenda that we are fighting for and the movement, the grassroots movement we are building is a multi-generational, multiracial, working class movement that says proudly and loudly, we are tired of the exploitation of working people in this country. Bringing people together around the principles of justice is something that Donald Trump and his ilk will never understand. They thrive on division. They thrive on hatred. They thrive on pitting people against one another who come from different places or who worship God differently. And no one knows that better than Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. There is no member of Congress who, in the modern history of this country, has been subjected to more vitriolic, more hate-filled, more racist attacks from Donald Trump and some of his supporters than this extraordinarily brave Congresswoman. And Minneapolis, I thank you for having Ilhan's back on these fights. Ilhan has stood up to Trump, and we will stand with her. Our campaign is not just about ending a very corrupt political system. It is not just about ending a very rigged economy. It is about transforming our national priorities and our system of values. Unlike Trump and his billionaire friends, we do not worship greed, selfishness, and corruption. We understand that we are stronger, healthier, and happier as human beings when we reach out to others and understand that as human beings, we are all in this together. We must all be prepared, as Ilhan has shown, to fight for everyone who is struggling. To fight for the 50% of American families who are living paycheck to paycheck. To fight for every family that cannot afford the health care they need. To fight for every family that cannot provide the quality education their kids deserve. To fight for everyone who confronts racism, anti-Semitism, sexism, religious bigotry, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia. So tonight I would like you all to look around you, because this is what this campaign is about. Find somebody, look at somebody who may have a different color skin than you, maybe have a different religion than you, somebody you don't know. Maybe they love or they pray in a different way than you do. And my question now for you, and it's the fundamental question not just for you, but for the American people. Are we as a people prepared to fight for each other just as we will fight for ourselves? Are you willing to fight for our immigrant neighbors, even if you are native born? Are you willing to stand up and fight back against hatred and bigotry, even if it is not directed at you? Are you willing to fight for a future generation of people who aren't even born yet so that they can live on a planet which is healthy and habitable? Because that is what I am asking of you tonight, to fight and create an economy and a government that works for all of us in our proud diversity on behalf of people we don't even know and may never know. That is what this campaign is about. Nelson, as all of you know, Nelson Mandela was one of the great heroes of the 20th century. He was a man who spent much of his adult life in jail, fighting the abomination of apartheid in South Africa. And Mandela made a statement once that I have never forgotten, and let me quote it to you, because it's a very profound statement. And he said, and I quote, "Everything seems impossible until it is done." Everything seems impossible until it is done. So in Mandela's own case, who would have believed that a man sentenced to hard labor, spending years in jail, would walk out of that jail and become the president of his country? Who would have believed that a young girl born in poverty in Somalia, living in a refugee camp in Kenya, would someday become an extraordinary member of the United States Congress? So what Mandela was saying, which is a profound truth, is that the establishment, whether it's the economic powers, whether it's the political establishment, whether it's the corporate media establishment, they want you to believe that real change, substantive change, is not possible. That all we can do is nibble around the edges. Well, I respectfully disagree. If we have the courage to think big, not small, if we have the courage to take on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite, if we have the courage to get heavily involved in the political process, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. So let me tell you briefly about the progressive agenda that some will say is impossible today, but I have absolute confidence that together we will accomplish. At a time of massive income and wealth inequality, when 3 people in America own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Can you believe that? 3 people. When 49% of all new income is going to the top 1%. And when enormously profitable corporations like Amazon and many others make billions of dollars a year in profits, they don't pay a nickel in federal income tax. So tonight we say to that corporate elite, yes, under our administration, you will begin to pay your fair share of taxes. Tonight, we declare from the bottom of our hearts that health care is a human right, not a privilege. The current healthcare system is dysfunctional, is wasteful, and is incredibly cruel. Together, we will end the insanity of spending twice as much on healthcare per capita as do the people of any other nation, while 87 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. 30,000 die needlessly every single year, and 500,000 families go bankrupt because of medical debt. We will end the absurdity of America paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Last year, the insurance companies and the drug companies, the healthcare industry made over $100 billion in profit. Well, they better spend that money quickly because that profiteering is going to end very soon. Now, they can spend all of the money they want on TV ads, and they could buy all of the think tanks that they want, lying about what Medicare for All is. But at the end of the day, history is on our side. We will pass a Medicare for All single-payer program. Every person in this arena understands that education is a human right which enriches us all. That's what learning is what human life is about, and we need a good education to get the good jobs that are out there in a competitive global economy. So this is what we are going to do. We're going to bring about a revolution in education in America. We will provide universal, high-quality, affordable pre-K education for all kids in this country. We will provide high-quality public education that gives our teachers the respect and compensation they deserve. We are going to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and cancel all student debt. If Congress, against my vote, could bail out the crooks on Wall Street, if Congress could give hundreds of billions in tax breaks and subsidies to the fossil fuel industry, if Congress can vote to spend more money on the military than the next 10 nations combined, if Trump and his friends could give over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large corporations, you know what? We could cancel all student debt in America. And we can do that and pay for that by imposing a modest tax on Wall Street speculation. In a rapidly changing economy, every worker in this country deserves a living wage, at least $15 an hour. Women do not need 80 cents on the dollar. They need the whole damn dollar. And we are going to make it easier, not harder, for workers to join unions. In my view, every American who wants a job should be able to find a job through a federal jobs guarantee program. There is an enormous amount of work to be done. We have to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. We have to transform our energy system. We have to create a first-class child care system, improve education. We can create many millions of jobs and make America strong in the process. Brothers and sisters, unlike Donald Trump, we understand that climate change is not a hoax, but rather a grave, grave threat to the future of our country and the entire planet. That is why together we will implement a program consistent with the goals of the Green New Deal. I am proud to tell you that the climate change proposal that we recently introduced is the boldest, most comprehensive climate change plan ever introduced by any candidate for federal office. Under our plan, we will create up to 20 million jobs. Because we're going to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energies. And instead of denying the reality of climate change, our administration will lead the world in transforming the global energy system. And at a time when 500,000 Americans tonight, as we speak, are sleeping out on the streets or are in emergency shelters, when 19 million people are spending half of their limited income on housing, when gentrification is raising rents all over America, we are going to pass the most comprehensive housing bill ever passed in the history of this country. We will build up to 10 million new housing units. We will eliminate homelessness. We will fight gentrification. We will create a national rent control standard. And today, we say to the prison industrial complex that whether they like it or not, we are going to bring about real criminal justice reform in America. We are going to end a racist and broken criminal justice system. We are going to invest in our young people in jobs and education, not more jails and incarceration. We are going to end private prisons and detention centers. We are going to end the absurdity of cash bail in this country, where 400,000 people tonight are in jail, not having been convicted of anything, but simply unable to afford the bail they need to get out of jail. We are going to end the disastrous war on drugs. We are going to legalize marijuana in this country. And expunge the records of those who have been arrested. And by the way, when we talk about criminal justice reform, we are going to change a system in which tens of thousands of Americans every year get criminal records for possessing marijuana, but not one Wall Street executive got a criminal record for destroying the economy and the lives of millions of people. Well, I got a radical idea, and that is equal justice under the law, whether you're rich or whether you're poor. And tonight, we say to our brothers and sisters all over this country that instead of demonizing the undocumented immigrants in this country, we are going to pass a complete overhaul of our broken immigration system and provide a path towards citizenship. On our first day in office, through executive order, we are going to provide legal status to the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. And we will extend that program to their parents. We're going to develop a humane border policy. No more snatching babies from the arms of their mothers. No more separating families. No more locking children up in cages. And we will put an end to the disastrous ICE raids that are terrorizing people all over this country. And today, as we think back on those horrific mass shootings which have plagued our country for years, when we think about the 40,000 people who die from guns every year in this country, today we say that our gun policy will be determined by the American people, not the NRA. Our administration will move aggressively to end the epidemic of gun violence in this country and pass the common sense gun safety legislation that the American people want. You know, as a United States Senator, I hear a lot of speeches on the floors of the Senate from my Republican colleagues. And day after day, they drone on about how they as conservatives believe in small government. They as conservatives believe that we should get the government off the backs of the American people. And today I say to those Republicans, if you want to get the government off the backs of the American people, support a woman's right to control her own body. It is a woman who should control her own body, not some politician at the local, state, or federal level. And tonight, I promise you that I will never nominate anyone to the Supreme Court of the United States who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. Brothers and sisters, all of you know that we are in an unprecedented moment in American history. And it's not just Trump, it goes beyond Trump. It goes to the fact that we are moving toward an oligarchic form of society where a small number of billionaires exercise enormous power over the economic and political life of this country. And as Ilhan said earlier in her remarks, and she's absolutely right, is that real change, and I want you to think back on American history, real change has never, ever taken place from the top on down. It has always taken place from the bottom on up. Real change took place when working people, horrifically exploited, working 7 days a week, fired arbitrarily, when working people 100+ years ago stood up to their employers and they said, you know what, we're human beings. We're not animals. We are entitled to dignity and respect. Whether you like it or not, we will form unions. Real change took place when the African American community and their allies stood up and said, we are sick and tired of the racism and the Jim Crowism and the bigotry, and we together will end racism. Real change took place when well over 100 years ago, women in this country said, we are sick and tired of being second-class citizens. We will have our rights. And some of those women went on hunger strikes. Some of them died. But they stood together with their male allies and said that in America, women will have all of the rights they are entitled to. Being a little bit older than some of you, I will tell you that if we were here 30 years ago, not one person in this room, of the many thousands who are here, would have believed that gay marriage would be legal in every state in this country. That did not happen by accident. It did not happen by a Supreme Court one day voting for it. It happened because of the courage of the gay community and their straight allies who stood up and said what 30 or 40 years ago was not popular to say, that people have a right to love whoever they want, regardless of their gender. And we're going to end environmental degradation, and we're going to transform our energy system, being led by the young people of this country in the environmental movement. So here is my point. In this unprecedented moment in American history, we need an unprecedented grassroots movement. Now, I'm a senator, and I'm in Washington, and I know the power of the 1%. I know the power of Wall Street, of the insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, the military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex. I know the power and unlimited wealth of the 1%. Make no mistake about it. These are extraordinarily powerful people. But at the end of the day, the 1% is 1%. And we are 99%. So if we stand together and not let Trump divide us up by the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation, if we stand together, if we keep our eyes on the prize for an American government and economy that works for all of us, if we are prepared to fight, there is nothing together we cannot accomplish. Thank you all.